It was a chilly, windy night in Eastchester, New York. The rain had been pouring since evening, and the streets were now flooded. Lena was waiting at the bus stand for about an hour now. She impatiently checked her watch again. It's almost 11? It's been raining like this, and he told me to wait here, and now he's the one who's late? This bus stand was about 15 minutes away from the hospital Lena worked as an intern. She was heading home when her boyfriend Andrew called and said he would pick her up tonight. But he was late. Far across the road, through the heavy showers, Lena stared at the cemetery. Just the motion of the leaves on the trees in the graveyard eerily swaying in the wind gave her the chills. Luckily, Lena wasn't alone. There were a few others waiting for the bus. But among them was a strange man who had been eyeing her the whole time. Lena could feel his eyes still on her. Why wouldn't he look away? 11:15, the bus arrived, and all the other passengers boarded. Lena wondered if she too should just catch a ride home. But keeping up her last hopes, she angrily stayed put. But when the bus doors closed and the driver pulled off, Lena realized the only other person left with her was that strange man. Was he still staring? Lena peered at him through the corner of her eyes. He was. Is he coming towards me? What if he tries something? What do I do? There's no one else around here. As soon as the man took another step, Lena walked down onto the road, planning to walk home, when she heard the sound of a motorbike in the distance. She breathed out in relief when she spotted Andrew. So sorry I'm late. You made me wait for you here, by the cemetery, for so long at this time of the night, and you know I have a flight tomorrow morning. I know. I said I'm sorry, sweetheart. Now come on, get on the bike. You're soaking wet. Lena sat down behind him, looking back the last time. The creep was gone. Lena shivered at the thought of what could have happened if Andrew hadn't arrived. Lena, you're a medical doctor. I just don't get how can you be afraid of ghosts? That's why I believe, because I'm a doctor. Have you ever wondered about death? What separates the dead from the living? The presence of soul. You can have a healthy body and still die, all because your soul has left your body. But where does that soul go? There's a world beyond what our eyes see, Andrew. All right, doctor, you win. Lena watched as Andrew took a different turn than usual. Where are we going? Your place? I'll drop you off at your apartment, but first we're going to go have cart food. This late at night? You mean we're going to go all the way to the riverside in Manhattan? Correct. Back when they were first dating, Andrew and Lena often came to the riverside and bought dinner from the single food cart that was here. But they had never quite done it like this, at midnight, in the rain. Luckily, the rain had slowed to a drizzle, and the couple found a bench by the river where they had their food and afterwards decided to take a walk. It's getting pretty cold. Take my jacket. Lena stopped by the railing, looking out to the moonlit waves crash onto the rocks. It's almost 1, Andrew, she said, but it was oddly silent. She turned to see Andrew wasn't beside her. Confused, she turned around when she froze seeing Andrew stoop down on his knees. Lena, before you leave tomorrow, I have something to tell you. He took out a ring and presented it to her. Will you marry me? So this was why he brought her out here, reminiscing the old days. Andrew. After a wonderful night, Andrew and Lena spent the night together, in which she packed for her flight, and sharp the next morning, Andrew saw her off at the airport. Lena was being sent as part of a medical crew for a training session at a branch in the small town of Camden in Maine for the next 3 weeks. After a 3-hour flight, Lena arrived to Camden, where she was escorted to a quarter that had been arranged for her. It was part of a community, however, located in a remote area. The houses were spaced quite far apart. The only other time she actually got to meet someone was at the hospital or the community center, which was a half-hour walk from the quarter. The weather was cold and wet in Maine, but the environment was absolutely lovely. A walk behind the quarter was the rocky shores of the bay. The lodge itself was cozy, and the people at the hospital were all nice as well. After her first day at work, Lena bought some food from the canteen and returned home. After unpacking and arranging her things, she sat down to have dinner, but ended up leaving the food half-eaten. There was a strange smell to it that she really wasn't used to. Exhausted, Lena just went to bed, and soon fell asleep. It was sometime in the middle of the night she woke up hearing the sound of the rain tapping on the roof. She pulled up her blanket snug around her, feeling a cool breeze flow across the room. It was comforting until she began to notice. Another sound, almost rhythmic with the droplets of the rain. But it was something else. Almost like the sound of someone tapping their nails. But it was when Lena started to hear a faint voice. My. That she finally opened her eyes and looked around the room. The cool breeze had been coming from the window that was slightly opened. Lena was about to lay back down when she noticed something move outside the window as the curtains moved aside. She jumped up, her heart racing, as she stared at a dark figure of a woman standing outside. My. Lena couldn't tell if she was just seeing things or if this was just a dream, but she was petrified. It was pouring outside. Why would anyone be standing out there? Or was this something else? She shut her eyes in fear, trying to convince herself otherwise. Suddenly, hearing the rain stop, she opened her eyes and looked out. The woman was gone. She rushed to lock her windows and check the doors. But she didn't get much sleep the rest of that night. Sharp at 7 the next morning, she tried to forget everything and hurried out for work. Today, when she returned around 9 p.m., she bought some groceries to make her own food. This wasn't New York, so the transport wasn't so convenient. Having walked from the hospital to the market to back here, Lena had lost her breath. She poured out a glass of water and gulped it down. But something didn't feel right. Why did it feel slimy in her mouth? Like something was crawling down her throat. Lena stared at the glass, feeling her stomach churn. What was wrong with the water? She immediately bent over the sink and vomited everything out. After which, she felt all the more drained. She didn't have the energy to make dinner anymore and went to bed. When she woke up, she hurried to make herself breakfast. But again, the strange smell, the odd texture. She had a few bites and left for work. Lena, you look a little under the weather. Is everything okay? Is everything okay? Yeah, everything's fine. Just been having some trouble sleeping and a little loss of appetite. That's it. On the third night returning home, Lena felt like she would pass out from hunger. It was late that night when she managed to stir up some dinner and sat to eat. But taking the first bite, she felt that same crawling sensation in her mouth. She poked at her food with a fork, horrified to see its condition, slimy and gross. Lena pushed it away and ran to the sink to vomit again. When she relieved herself, she sat down, unable to make sense of anything. She started to hear that whisper in her head. My. At first it was low, but then it started to get louder. My. Horrified, Lena walked around the house, but she couldn't tell if she was hearing it. She couldn't tell if what she was hearing was in her mind or present here. Where was it coming from? That's when Lena started to hear the voice louder towards the back door. She stepped out into the wet, muddy path, looking around, hearing the words repeat over and over. "Who are you, and what do you want from me?" Lena shouted, before she became lightheaded and fainted. About a week later, after Lena had left for Maine, Andrew received a call. "Is this Andrew Calloway?" "Yes, who is this?" "We're calling on behalf of Lena Jameson. She had listed you as one of her emergency contacts. She has recently been admitted to the facility here. She isn't doing well." When Andrew got the news, he immediately booked a flight and reached Maine the following evening. He was thundered to see Lena admitted to a mental asylum. She was sedated and hooked up to an IV, being given saline. She lost tremendous weight and looked emaciated. Andrew sat beside her, devastated to see her condition. "Andrew, is that you?" "Lena, how did this happen?" "Andrew, ever since I came here, I haven't been able to eat. I haven't been able to sleep. I've been seeing someone. I've been hearing things. Her words repeat in my head. She keeps on saying, my. I feel like I'm losing my mind. I heard her voice out behind the cabin a few nights ago. When I went out, I saw this dark figure coming towards me. It was an old woman. She kept telling me, 'It's mine.' I fainted right there. When the others found me, they didn't believe anything I said, but I swear, Andrew, something strange is in that cabin." When Andrew listened to Lena, he felt concerned. He knew why all this was happening. It was because of him. Lena and Andrew had been dating for almost 2 years now. And in these 2 years, Lena had progressed a lot, completing her studies and getting a job. But Andrew wasn't doing too well. He had been working as a patrol officer for the BIIPD, and he wasn't making much money. But he loved Lena, and he wanted to propose marriage to her. He had been trying to save up for a ring, but he still wasn't able to afford it. It was one night, however, while Andrew was patrolling, that he was informed of a bus accident and went to inspect the scene. Only a few passengers had survived, but many had passed away. Andrew was on the bus, trying to get the bodies out, when he noticed a ring on the finger of an elderly woman. He was a bit surprised seeing a woman like her, traveling by bus, would own an expensive ring like this. Nonetheless, that night, Andrew had stolen the ring from her. That was the ring he had proposed to Lena with, and perhaps the reason why she was in this condition. Lena, I need the ring I gave you. Why? I can't explain it to you now, but don't worry, everything will be fine. Just try to rest. I'll be back. Back in New York, the weather had become gloomy once again. The thunder had started to rumble. When George Patterson was at the cemetery visiting his late wife, as he had been since she passed away. Every evening he came here to give her flowers and speak to her. But today, as he was leaving, he spotted an officer standing by the gate. Hello, Mr. Patterson. It was on the night of the accident that Andrew had seen George at the hospital's morgue. Where's my wife's ring? There was a ring on her finger. She always used to wear it. It's not on her. Sir, it must have gone missing during the accident. Andrew took out the ring and handed it to George. Here is the ring that went missing on the night of the accident. It was found on the site. I thought I'd bring it back to you. Seeing the ring, George chuckled. Thank you. This ring, it holds so many memories. It's been almost 40 years. My wife Estella, she was 16 and I was 19 when we fell in love and wanted to get married. But I didn't do anything at the time, nor was I anywhere near completing my studies. But let me tell you, love can make people do many things. I started searching for a job so I could propose to her, but it was the time of the Great Depression, so the journey wasn't easy. Eventually, I got a job at a coal mine, which Estella didn't like at all, but I kept working and saving up for us. It was in that coal mine that I accidentally discovered a small chunk of diamond. It was nothing but pure luck, but when I found it, I had only one thought in mind. I would propose to Estella with it. It was the night of my birthday that Estella had sneaked out to meet me. She stole her father's knife and brought it for me as a gift. I brought you this. It's your birthday gift. I also got you something. What is this? A piece of salt? No, it's a diamond. I found it in the coal mine. If we get it cut properly, it'll be worth a lot. At the time, it didn't seem like much, but Estella loved it. We got married and she kept it with her all these years. We went through ups and downs and so many economic troubles. But she never let me sell it. Estella, if we sell this, we can buy our own house. We won't have to go through this trouble. No, George, it's mine. That ring was only hers. It was much later, when we finally became financially stable, that I got it cut and polished and made into a ring for her. She wore it all the time. It was something really precious to her. As George shared his story, Andrew walked with him back to the grave of his wife. He took out an old pocket knife and smiled. This was the one she gave me, my father-in-law's knife. He stooped down and dug a small hole in her grave and dropped the ring inside. You're going to leave it here? It's worth a fortune. George covered it over with dirt. It might be worth a lot of money, but it was worth something more to Estella. You can put a price on these worldly possessions, but love is something you can't measure. To her, this had a different meaning. It was hers and only hers, and it belongs here with her.
Click on the subscribe button and check out more awesome videos on our channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon because you know it's interesting.